Everything just changed for Legends Fest Part 2. And characters that once felt guaranteed for Part 2 are a lot less likely now. And even the big Part 3 Ultra we thought was coming might have just completely changed. Things started getting interesting when this guy showed up during the Fest Part 1 reveal. We're in the middle of a Fusion Reborn centric reveal, and all of a sudden they're talking about a free-to-play Jiren? That's a little weird, right? Fast forward 2 weeks, and now we've got Ultra UI Sign Goku's Plat Equip as the only content for a whole week during Legends Fest, but that's a conversation for another day. Now, if you're not keeping up with Dragon Ball Legends like that, UI Sign was far from the next major Ultra in line to get a Plat Equip. They skipped Ultra Vegito Blue, they skipped the like button down there. That's kind of weird to skip that. And of course, maybe the most anticipated Ultra Plat like to date right now, Ultra Gogeta Blue. So all of this has to mean something, right? Last year, the week before Part 2 had, well, first off, more content than this year, but secondly, a nod to both Part 1 and Part 2. The nods to Part 1 were Purple Vegeta Zenkai and a unique equip for LF Trunk. Both of those were there to support the future tag and the Part 1 unit. Typically speaking, this game likes to hard focus on one tag and give that tag plenty of options before, of course, moving on to the next release, which will likely be a new tag. Examples are March was a hard focus on Daima, April a focus on Dragon Ball, May a focus on Universe Survival Saga. You get the point. And that's what they did during Fest Part 1 last year, where the Part 1 units for Fest were future themed. Then the second week of Fest, we got the LF Trunks Zenkai and a free-to-play Trunks to help the tag. And then, as I mentioned before, the third week of Fest continued the future support with the Zenkai for Purple Vegeta and LF Trunks' equip. But then, as I mentioned, that wasn't all. That was during this exact week for last year, because there was also a nod to Part 2, which was free-to-play Red Vegeta. He wasn't just a sneak by the dev team. He was a nod to the Super Saiyan 3 Goku that would release a week later for Part 2 of Fest last year. So that brings us to this year, Legends Fest 2025. Week 2 of the Fest was a free-to-play Jiren and the Plat Equip for free-to-play Ultra Nameku. And then week 3 is this Platinum Equip for Ultra UI Sign Goku. There's actually more than meets the eye with this, and it actually tells us a few things, not just the obvious. But let's talk about the obvious stuff first, and then we'll dive into the deeper meaning. Now we are expecting for Part 2 of Fest to have a Universe Survival Saga character, if not both characters. And that tag has seen its fair share of characters this year. Part 1 of the 7th anniversary got us not just the 2 LFs, but also 2 sidebender units. You remember when they did that and they didn't just make 1 sidebender unit and then also try to sell as supporters? It was great. But we got 4 characters from the Universe Survival Saga with the Part 1 drop of the 7th anniversary. And then we got the Kefla and the sidebender drop right after the 7th anniversary. And now, presumably, we're coming back to it. So some characters that I think are absolutely Fest Part 2 worthy, starting with a massive one here, is Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. Now, this guy has an Ultra, but he does not have an LF. Now, the moment I'm specifically thinking of kind of is an LF, because you have the Super Saiyan Blue Goku that revives in a UI sign, which is essentially that moment that we're thinking of, but it's right before the revival where he sends the Spirit Bomb down and then transforms into Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken to actually push it down. A moment that Dokkan has done, a moment that was a huge part of the promo for Sparking Zero. I felt like I saw that Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku Ultimate a lot on the build up to Sparking Zero, but this is a character that, again, has his Ultra counterpart, but does not have an LF, and that moment is very much so missing from this game. And so I do think, even though we got a Goku from Part 1, hey man, last year's Part 2 was literally Goku and Goku, so that would not matter too much. Next up, we have Hit. Now, Hit has also an Ultra in this game, but that Ultra is specifically from the U6 versus U7 fight, and so Hit from the Tournament of Power does not really have, like, really any representation, right? Especially not as a premium release, which anytime we say premium release, I'm referring to obviously Legends Limited character or an Ultra, and that is a huge one. Now, they could also do something crazy and also follow suit like Dokkan and turn them into a tag character, and we could get a tag Hit in Goku. And that would feel very Legends Fest worthy to me, and actually very, very cool in my honest opinion. Now, speaking of tag characters, there's one that I just reacted to that was a custom animation from some incredibly talented people here in the community, which was a Golden Frieza and 17 that has a Goku assist. So it was essentially a piggyback up off the 5th year anniversary LF, but then with an extra, a little extra sauce, because you also have the 17 in there. And at its core, it's a Frieza and 17 unit with a Goku assist instead of a Goku and Frieza unit. Now, to piggyback up off this idea and take it just a one step further, one thing we've not seen them do yet that I have to imagine will happen at some point, somewhat limited because there's not a ton of moments to build this off of, but are trio units. We've never seen them do a proper tag trio where you can sort of tag between 3 different characters instead of 2. It sounds a little crazy, but for a moment like this specifically, where you literally have Goku, Frieza, and 17 working together in that finale of Dragon Ball Super, at least for now until it comes back. Cope. I think that is still something they could do. That and Ultras, like the tag mechanic and Ultras, are the 2 things that Dragon Ball Legends are like known for, and for the most part are something people are very interested in checking out, like from the outside looking in. Like tag characters in this game and Ultras with their brush and their brush ink art and their cool animations, like those are the things I think that pique the most interest from people. And if they're not going to finally step it up and either do something crazy different with the tag mechanic itself, again, like introducing 3 characters, or they're not going to give us an ultra tag unit, like what are we doing? Like there's stuff there that would just print money. Just do it. Now the last character I'm going to mention here, which they could do Goku and hit, and it would sort of go into what I'm about to mention, but of course is Jiren. Jiren has shown up twice this year. Free-to-play unit during 7th anniversary, now free-to-play unit during Fest. Again, Universe of Ava Saga feels like a 98.5% lock genuinely for part 2. I think we can all agree to that. Now, the only way I see it transforming Jiren here is if they follow suit from what they've done basically in every other part this year. Because so far this year, every character has been related in each part of these celebrations. 7th anniversary part 1, part 2, and part 3, and then even now Legends Fest part 1, all of them have been related to each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if this part follows suit and both characters are Universe of Ava Saga, and in this case would be versus in a way. And transforming Jiren would work with a Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, but so would a hit. But I wanted to save and bring this up at the end because I also wouldn't be surprised if this part 2 is more like 2024's Legends Fest, where we got a Daima Goku and a Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and they were just completely unrelated, unaffected. They're both Goku, right? Which then brings us back to the other meanings behind character releases so far that we haven't spoke on. Because what if the reason that we haven't received any other movie character buffs is because they aren't done with movie characters just yet? The reason they did all the future buffs in part 1 last year was because they didn't touch future again in part 2 or part 3 of Fest 2024. But maybe this year we're going to get more movie characters or fusions, so that's why they decided to put their focus on the Universe of Ava Saga early, since part 1 is actually the longest part of Fest at 3 weeks long. Part 2 only lasts 2 weeks until we are then at part 3 with the Ultra, or this year maybe Ultras. They did it during 7th Annie part 3. It is absolutely, that gate is open. All right, absolutely possible. But because part 2 is 1 week shorter than part 1, that doesn't give them as much time to drop characters. So maybe that's why they chose to start the buffs for part 2 early, and they didn't need to buff movie characters because, well, we're going to see movie characters again in part 2 or part 3 as summonable characters. And during the part 1 reveal, they actually dropped and started showing all the movies. Now, I don't know, maybe this sounds very tinfoil hat, but that could have been a very real sort of hint at more characters we're going to see throughout the rest of the celebration. So in terms of looking at just Legends Limited, again, I'm not presuming that these will be Ultra characters. Looking at specifically Legends Limited characters I think are due up for either one literally is their first ever or a new one. That's what we're looking at here, specifically from the Z movies. I do think an Orange Piccolo is at any point in time possible, but because all the movies they showed off were Z, we're gonna kind of stick with that specifically, starting with Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Now, the one we got last year was from Second Coming. We do not have a Legends Limited unit from the movie 8 Broly. There is still so much they can do with that character specifically, and I would not be surprised to see something for him sooner than later. And even more so, they could then also give an equip to the Second Coming Broly too. They might do that anyway. Now, piggybacking up off that is the Punch Goku from movie 8 as well, right? It is a one singular SP in this game, and that is basically it. Like, that moment has a huge character in Dokkan and really nothing over here in Legends. Of course, another one is a wrathful SSA 3 Goku. It'd be slightly weird to put that back here in this slot, but that guy, this is crazy to say, he's 3.5 years old. When we get to the 8th anniversary, he'll be 4 years old. 4 years, like, that's nuts. Ugh, I don't even like to think about that too much. And then the last two that I feel are pretty obvious here are Gohan and Bojack. Typically, now that they've brought UI Sign back into the fray, they're gonna make a character that somehow disregards UI Sign's abilities, right? Or somehow nerfs him in a way just from you having this other character. And Gohan always seems to be that fix. So my Gohan senses are going off. Gohan is not too far away. Whether he's here in part 2, he's one of the part 3, he's a part 3 Ultra or one of the part 3 Ultras, or he's a January, February character, get ready. There's probably a new Gohan very soon. And his counterpart, of course, would be Bojack. I do think these Universe of Alpha Sagas are not a red herring. I've seen some people in the community say that they could be. I don't think they are, right? They're not the fusion bugs from Dragon Ball Daima all over again. I'm pretty convinced the USS character is going to show up for part 2. Again, in this game, anything is possible, so don't count out somehow a full-on movies part 2 section, but I think if we see a movies character, it'll be combined with the USS character. But let's not forget about 2 other important tags that have to be mentioned, starting with the Majin Buu saga. Not only did we get that random stray free-to-play Goten, that maybe you could say was related to the Gogeta because that movie takes place during the Buu saga, but I doubt there's any correlation there. But there's also the fact that this year has seen a premium release from all of the Z sagas except for the Majin Buu saga. And if they decide to go the Majin Buu saga route, like we didn't get the unique equip for Gogeta Blue or any of that, is because there's more fusion related stuff coming. And so like we don't want to go too crazy with the tag, and they could drop us the transforming Vegito. Literally the Vegito Blue counterpart of last year, but instead it's Super Vegito, right? To me, it doesn't, Super Vegito doesn't necessarily feel like a part 2 character, but I do think this whole transforming thing and maybe them seeing the reception to last year, just Rose and VB being just transforming characters, maybe that has been like knocked down a little bit. If they're going to just do a fusion and only make it a transforming variant, it's like, okay, so this is probably not our part 1 headliner material anymore, but that is, I think, absolutely a character they're probably going to try to squeeze out at some point before we get, you know, another variant of an Ultra Vegito. They also might scrap it because I think the reception to VB and Rose last year were not very good. If not Vegito, then we still really, and I've been saying this for a long time, we need a revamp of the original green SSA 3 LF Goku. LF still looks really good, but we need a revamp of that. And if somehow it ends up being full Majin Buu Saga Part 2, it probably won't be, but still got to mention them here. Kid Buu to go along with that revamp of SSA 3, and a Buuhan for the love of everything, Tani and Legends team. We need an LF Buuhan, man. Like, please. If anything, I would sacrifice Vegito as a part 2 character just to get an actual Buuhan in this game. That would be so sick. And the slight hints at Majin Buu Saga. There's also Daima. This is a brand new series, right? That we got this year. We got characters for immediately, and then has not been touched for 9 months. That's like crazy. I will say I'm very lukewarm on Daima at this point. I do still think we need mini SSA 4, we need mini SSA 3, we need Goma, and plenty of other characters, right? There's tons of characters that don't have representation in the game that are from that show that I think at some point left side banner SPs and LLs and Ultras and etc. I do think it is crazy they've not went back to Daima. Like, these characters just don't even exist in our game. It's nuts. And so I definitely thought part 2 of Fest would be the perfect place to do it, but I'm the most lukewarm I've ever been on it. But I could see some randomness of like, here's this Universe of Alpha Saga character, and then here's mini SSA 4 Goku. Definitely. And then that brings us to part 3 and the potential change of what that has done. I feel like a lot of us have been, I've seen a lot of similar things being thrown out there, right? Broly deserves an Ultra. I've seen a lot of you guys really adapt and like this idea of the first Ultra tag that I've been trying to freaking manifest for like 2-3 years now. You know, a lot of Super Saiyan 4 Goku as well. I mean, Ultra SSA 4 Goku is definitely, especially that since we got Ultra SSA 4 Vegeta, that is definitely a character people are expecting to see. But now with all this Universe of Alpha Saga stuff, I always sort of just said, yeah, whatever on UI like Ultra, because UI already got a character this year. So anytime I saw people say Ultra UI, I'm like, dude, no, like you got a character this year. He feels more on the table than ever right now. He does. I don't know that I really want that right now, you know, like Ultra UI sign is pretty fun to use, but he's not very fun to go against, you know, and so it's like I don't really want that now, but he feels more on the table than ever. But so do movie characters, especially if part 2 is a hard focus on Universe of Alpha Saga and there are no other buffs to sort of give to the, you know, sagas from the movies characters. Part 3 probably looking like a lot of movies, looking like a movie character or 2 movie characters. But we'll talk about that more in an actual part 3 dedicated video that I'll be making here in just a couple weeks. But if you're looking for more content on this channel, you click on that video. I'll see you guys over there in that one. I know you're gonna enjoy it. Appreciate it if you hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you guys next one. Bye.